So a while ago, a few people were asking about how to measure a skin that is off of the carcass. So we don't have the body, and we're going to order some forms for it, figure out what's the size because it's all like kind of like opened up. We have no idea what's the measurement. So, well, the truth is that you can never figure out the exact measurement because the body's out and long gone before the skin arrives here. So this one came to me tanned, and but I still need to order a form for it. So this is how I do it, and it has worked for me quite frankly very good. So it's not going to be accurate, but it is going to help me find the closest match. So first, I would say I start with eye to nose measurements for you. So you can lay down the face. Let me just bring it down closer for you. There you go. Okay, so this is the face. You lay it down on the table. Okay, flat, fold it in half. Make sure the ears on the same spot. So you have the whole face of skin symmetrically laid down flat here. So all I have to do just stretch it this way. Okay, and then stretch it out. Kind of like you want the animal to be stretched on both sides, not only one side, because you can stretch it long. So this had just got out of the freezer, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But this is how I do it. Basically, I make sure that I'm stretching it from all directions and leave it like that, kind of like relaxed, okay? And then simply throw my measuring tape from the corner of the eye to the tip of the nose, which is reading about 8. So I would go about ½ inch less. I would call this 7.5 because the lips is all flattened out. So basically, if the muzzle looks like this, what happens if you make it flat? It'll get stretched forward, so you get more. So this, if you read this as 8, as what this is showing, is going to be a fake measurement. So it's wrong because the face is going to look like this. So see, you can add to the length of it. So whatever it reads, I subtract ½ inch from it. So 7.5 would be for our eye to nose. And then the next one is the neck. Okay, the skin is moist enough, so I don't need to spray it down with water. And again, I flatten the skin out like this. Okay, about an inch behind the ears. Okay, about an inch behind the ears. I stretch everywhere from here to here, stretch them all out. Of course, you're going to get more because usually the neck is triangular shape, especially on goats. I stretch everything fairly good from here to here, and then just measure about an inch behind the ears. Okay. It reads sharp 14¾ which I think it would be 15. Yeah, 15 for the neck. 7.5 and 15. Next one would be the girth. The hardest one would be probably the length because whatever reason I've always been off when I measure sorry, it got disconnected. So for whatever reason, it's always the hardest to figure out the length. But we'll give it a try. As long as out of the 4 measurements that we get, eye to nose, neck, girth, and the length, the 3 of them falls close to what the mannequin is reading on your catalog, especially the eye to nose, neck, and the girth. Usually the length falls into place too. If you're off, I mean, you'd better be off on your length comparing to the other 3 measurements. Okay, so now let's do the belly. The bigger the animal, the harder it's going to be for getting the girth or the belly measurements, because you got to stretch it wide, and then if it's too big, it's best to grab both sides with 2 people, 1 person on each side, and just pull it symmetrically. So to make it, because I'm always alone here, to make it a little bit easier for myself, I can see the center line of the animal. I grab right in the center, and I just, because my arms are not long enough, and I just keep stretching it like that. Deal with half the girth. Okay. Okay, now that I got it like that, I fold it in half. Kind of like I opened up the cells of the skin, fold it in half. Now I try to stretch both halves at the same time. Okay, now this is our front leg, this is our back leg, right in the middle. I make sure my skin is perfectly lined up. I go from the very edge to here, which reads 21, times it by 2 would be 42. So 42 would be for my girth. And I write it down so I don't forget. The very same method that we did for the girth, we're going to just apply it. I know it's going to be off, but we still better than not doing it. Try to come up with the shape as natural as possible. Usually full body hides in the tanning process, usually just because of the handling, I dropped everything on the floor. Usually the way it is being handled in the tanning steps and whatever the tanners do, hides tend to get stretched out lengthwise, so we don't need to stretch it lengthwise. On the contrary, we just have to kind of like stretch it on the girth, try to shrink it a little bit, because if you go by the measurements of the skin this way right now, you're going to get such a long bodied measurement on it that you cannot even find a form that would line up for it. Okay, sorry, I had a phone call. So we're going to stretch it only from the girth wise and keep this skin super relaxed. Try to remove any kind of, or not to put any kind of pressure on it that would create more length, because we already have a lot of length. Just have to figure out the real length if we can. I always play with this to see if I can get better at measuring the length. You know, animals are kind of like, sometimes, not all the time, they're kind of like human. There's some of them that are shorter and a little bit rounder. Some of them are skinnier and taller and or longer. So we can't really go with one measurement for all. All right, so where is the tail? Tail is at the very end here. Right here. That's where we have to stop. And this is, you might not be able to see it like that. There you go. Okay, I got the whole animal laid out. We know that the length of the animal is measured from tip of the nose all the way to the base of the tail. So we go from 1/2 inch before there, or actually we can subtract it at the end, but I just go before the tip of the nose. I just go just like that. Follow. Follow the contour of the edge. Okay, this is 56 up to here. And 8. So basically would be 64. Or 60, sorry, would be 64. So this reads like 64. Do I trust it? Not really. I keep it in mind. I trust this a lot more than that. And also the eye to nose measurements, the neck and the girth. If you find a form, or if you're trying to find a form, I suggest you focus on these 3 measurements, the neck and the eye to nose and the girth, and see your 64, where does it end up? Like if you find a form that has the same girth, same eye to nose, and same neck, and then instead of 64 turns out to be 58, then you can be assured that that's how much flaws you've had in your measuring the length. That's the hardest, because, as I said, you know, the whole thing gets stretched this way. It just tends to get stitched that way, and a lot of tanners hang them upside, like from the tail or from the head down, and that helps for stretching it naturally again after they've worked on it. So I usually, as I said, you know, I get the measurements, keep it in mind to see how close I am. So there's all you need to know, I guess. This is how I do it. I don't know if anybody out there that has a better idea, we would appreciate that they share it with us so we can spread the good news out there and make everything easier for everyone. Okay, see you later, guys.